How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another update episode. Got two of my good pals with me today, Dave G and Les, both members of the Sober Motivation community, and it's been just incredible to get to know them over the months and the years and all the meetings and everything else. So hope you enjoyed these two stories. And now let's start off with Dave G's update episode. Welcome back to another update episode. We got Dave with us today. Dave, how are you?
Doing great, Brad. How are you?
Yeah, man, I'm well. I'm glad to connect again. The first episode we connected onto, vaguely I remember too, like, I don't know if it was that you were unsure about sharing the story, but it was probably the first time, right? And it was a really cool experience, man.
Yeah, it was. It was. I'll be lying if I didn't say it wasn't cathartic for me because it was good, but it's not something that comes naturally to me. I'm glad I did it. I got a lot of great feedback from the community. I didn't anticipate that. But it was nice to see a lot of people relate to my story, and hopefully I was able to help in some small way. So,
yeah. Oh, I know it did. I know it did, man. And I think at the end of the day, too, like, I always go into it with this, right? To keep the pressure off, maybe myself and the guests that join is, yeah, it's going to help somebody. We know that. But even if it doesn't, let's just say it doesn't. I think both of us have an opportunity to grow in that moment that we spent together and how things have been since. So I look at it like, okay, if it helps people in the world, gravy. But at the end of the day, it's going to help the two of us that are here.
that's right. It's a good thing. It's the right thing to do. And that's how I try to live my life. Do good things and just do the right thing.
Yeah. For anybody who didn't catch the first episode we connected on, give us the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah. Cliff Notes version is I am 2,056 days sober. So about 5 years, so hopefully 6 years in December. After decades, almost 3 decades of drinking quite a bit. So started when I was, probably 15, 16. And my drinking was, I hear a lot of people talk about, drinking to fit in or relieve their social anxiety and things like that. Mine was a little bit different. And everybody's just different, right? Mine was, for whatever reason, I grew up with a lot of feelings of guilt and shame, and I still struggle with that. But, when I started drinking, it was the answer for me, right? It slowed my brain down. It really calmed the chaos in my mind. Because before that, everything was so urgent right in the moment. Yeah, I started drinking when I was 15 and partied in high school. I had a great family life, still do. But yeah, just had that guilt and shame feeling, and the alcohol really was able to quell that.
Yeah.
So ramped up in my late teens and 20s in college, like so many people it always does, because you're off with no responsibilities other than going to class and getting an education. But that came secondary to drinking, and my drinking wasn't necessarily a party thing. Yes, we partied, but I was drinking every night because it became necessary. And that's probably when I can really point to, now I can in the moment, but I couldn't. But now, pointing back, that's when I know a problem was really developing. I don't know if people are born alcoholics or if they get created as an alcoholic, but I think it's always been inside me, and I really fostered it in my 20s. I graduated college, did fairly well. I've always had a good circle of friends and good family life. Got into my 30s, and that's when it really started to ramp up in terms of consequences and motivation, which to me is what my alcoholism really comes down to, is motivation and consequences, right? Why are you drinking, and what price are you willing to pay for your drinking? And, I needed it, and my brain became dependent on it. I couldn't function without it. And then the consequences were, I was, first of all, with my health, not just my mental health, but my physical health, and the pain and struggle I was putting my family through. My career was, I wouldn't say suffering, but I wasn't sharp. I know I could feel my cognitive decline after just years of just poison. I tried to quit several times, like we all do. Try to moderate, the same old story, as old as time. tried to switch from booze to beer. It never really worked. The moment I got sober, it was a moment of clarity, a true moment of clarity, but it wasn't born from some, love for myself or desire for me to get better. It was born from the knowledge that I was hurting my wife and my family. I wasn't there for my daughter. She was 5 years old at the time. I wasn't there for my wife. It came down to a critical moment when she found a receipt for a bottle of vodka that it was just dated the day before, one of the many bottles I had hid around the house, right? And at that point, there was no anger, no, I'm going to leave you kind of thing. It was just, at that point, she said, I'm going to Al-Anon. And that one hit me like right in the chest, because up until that point, I just naively thought that that this was just affecting me, that it was my issue, and it wasn't having consequences on anyone else. And the knowledge that it was affecting her, it was affecting my daughter, and the fact that she still loved me and she didn't want to leave me, but she had to learn how to live with an alcoholic. That was sobering, for lack of a better term. That was finally it. I went and I did an outpatient therapy, which was great, and I learned a lot in that. One of the big things was alcohol does not discriminate, right? There was a wide range of people of different backgrounds, different ethnicities, just different personalities. So I learned that it doesn't necessarily target one type of person, and everybody's got a different story, right? Everybody's got a different journey, and a different reason to treat, but more importantly, everybody's got a different reason to quit.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that, man. It brings back the memories too of the first time we connected too, and obviously getting to know you in the community and stuff over the months since. Interesting question I have for you too. Like, I think for a lot of people, Sharon, may be relatable to you. Just the idea of quitting is just, it feels impossible. Like, it's like, I'll be drinking till, the end of time. And then, you have this incident with where your wife is like, I have to learn how to, live with you being an alcoholic type thing. And that hits you, right in the chest there. Even a week before, I mean, a week before you quit, did you think that would be your reality?
No. And that's something that people really need to realize, people who are listening and may be thinking that that's not possible. It is. And I'm living proof of that. I thought that was going to be my life, and not because, and mostly because of an acceptance, right? Because I accepted that's how I lived. And because I wasn't bottoming out. Yes, I had issues with the law over the years. Yes, I've had terrible experiences where I almost died. But, when I quit in my early 40s, it was, I wasn't experiencing that anymore. It was just a constant state of go to work, come home, drink, go to work, come home, drink, go to work, come home, drink. So I thought that was my life. So I accepted it, and the knowledge that I could quit wasn't there. So when I was finally able to do it, it is the old adage, it's one day at a time. Every day's a fight, right? And to this day, like I said, I'm over 5 years sober, and every day is a fight, but it's worth it. The fight is worth it. And if you can just fight for that first day, just fight through that first day, you're going to find the courage and the strength inside you that you didn't realize you had. And then every day after that, when you wake up in the morning, it's the knowledge that you won the fight from the day before. So I live my life with that knowledge, with going to bed saying, okay, you did it, do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. One day at a time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
before we scoot forward, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
I just wanted to touch on that too, because a lot of us too, I mean, I never knew the last drink I was going to have would be my last. It's so weird, right? It's so, the thing about it is this, Dave, that kind of baffles me is we try all of these different things, right? Time and time again, you talk about, moderation and switching this, and I'm going to quit. Of course, Sunday or when Monday comes, I'm going to quit. And then you have these series of events, right, that kind of happen, and everybody has different events, right? For you, it's your, that conversation with your wife, and everybody has this thing, and then you get on this journey to quit. And I think we get so hard on ourselves, right? Because we've done all of this stuff. A lot of us have anyway, and it just didn't work out the way we wanted it to. And then we have something happen, and then we quit drinking. But I think that's a good point, like you said, to hit home for people, because if somebody's listening and they're in that spot right now where like, oh, my life was I'll always be drinking. I can't even see a sliver of my life without drinking. To let people know that, like, hey, we were all there too. It wasn't like, I think for a lot of people, like, things just, we saw it and it just, like, we manifested it and it came to life. I think it was
Yeah.
something happened and it was like, okay, now I've got to head in this direction. But it's so possible that you never know when that's going to be. It could be today for somebody, tomorrow, and then all of a sudden you're heading in a different direction. So I think that's just an interesting part of the story.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. It's not some fairy tale movie thing. It's not some glorious moment where the clouds part and you're struck by lightning. Maybe for some people it is. Me, it wasn't. It was a slog. Life is hard. It's tough and it's messy and it's beautiful and it's special and it's worth fighting for.
Yeah.
All the good and all the bad is worth the fight. And alcohol and drugs just kind of make you unable to win those fights. So that's what's so special about it. And the ability to feel that makes you stronger. And if you can't experience that specialness of life, including those bad feelings, which are special too in their own way, you're not aware of the joy that you can feel on the other side of it. Right. So there is that on the other side. You just need to get to tomorrow. And if you can't, like I said, every day is a fight, but it's beautiful and it's joyous and it's satisfying.
Yeah.
If you can't overcome those challenges and win those fights, you might not even recognize that you have the option, the ability to fight back. So just do that one day and get to that next day. And it never gets easy, right? I heard this somewhere. I've heard it in multiple places, but it never gets, for me at least, it never gets easy. It just gets less hard. So I know some people don't even think about drinking anymore. I do. I still do every day, but it's not like it's constantly like, gnawing at me. It's just a reminder that it's always there, and a reminder that you need to put in the work, and normal people don't necessarily have to worry about that. Everybody's got problems and struggles in life, but non-alcoholics, they don't have to deal with that fight every day. We do. So finding that reason to quit, holding on to it, and recognizing every day that it's worth fighting for is kind of for me, the key to long-term sobriety. And it's something that's kept me sober.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And I mean, I think even after 5 years, I mean, there's just your general stats out there, right? That after 5 years, it really, you jump into kind of a new category. I don't have it in front of me, obviously, but I just know from memory seeing it too, that long-term sobriety and, for things to keep going in this direction too.
Yeah.
Looking back,
it's not discouraging to anyone, because after 5 years, like I said, it is still a fight, but it's more special than anything. Just for me though, it's like, and again, it's not like I feel this constant buzz about me that I have to grab a bottle. It's like, an example is my dad died 2 years ago. And what I've noticed is about 2 or 3 weeks before he died, like the anniversary of his death, I'll start feeling jittery and I don't know why, and I'll get moody, and I'm not thinking about his death, right? It's the chemistry in my brain knowing that that's coming up and saying, okay, this is what you need to make that anxiety and that depression go away. Like I said, it's just a reminder. It's like, oh, there it is. It's always going to be with you, so just feel it. Make sure you take it in and you cope with it, because when you are able to overcome it, when you're able to fight it, that's when the good things happen.
Yeah. No, great job explaining that too. I feel like that's sometimes can be a thing. People get into this journey and then feel like, after wherever they're at, they're like, oh, I was thinking about drinking. And it feels like maybe they feel like they're doing something wrong. And it's like, man, especially for you, right? I mean, 3 decades, this was how you went through life. And I mean, I think there's some hard wiring, that takes place. And it's like, okay, this was the way I dealt with all the things in my life, for 3 decades. for it to just go away and never be there. But I think even as tough as it can be sometimes, I think it's a good reminder, even
Yeah.
where you're at and, where I'm at too. I was recently on the trip with my kids, right? And I take my daughter out. It was like 10 o'clock, right? This little beach town. And they got the patios out on right on the water, whatever. And we're going by this little patio. My daughter wants to go there. It's just a bar at this point. And I'm trying to explain to her, I'm like, usually kids can't go in places after 9. So I was like, you're not going to be able to go in there and get water. And I caught myself for a second, man, just sitting back, and we're walking by this place and by this place. And I'm like, you know what? Like, man, the good old days, right? I tell
Yeah.
myself this story, the good old days, kind of, you catch yourself, right? It's like, Brad, it was not what you thought it was, man,
No.
So, and it's still there. And I mean, that's the reality of I think, this the world we live in, right? Too. We're going to see it. There's going to be people around us and everything. And, and that's all that. But I think being honest with ourselves, and which I think is incredible, the view you have of being honest with ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I love what you mentioned there too. You kind of feel it to heal it. You kind of feel it to work through it. Don't just ignore it. And, because that's when I think we can get in trouble, right? When we start to suppress everything and say, oh yeah, just forget about that. It's not a big deal. I think it's good to work through it,
Yeah. Along those same lines. Yeah. Because when I was drinking, and, when I put myself in those scenarios, right, when going to the bar and stuff like that, that's when, bad stuff would happen, and I'd regret it.
Mm.
And I have regrets. A lot of people, they say they don't have regrets because, if things were different, then they wouldn't end up where they are right now. And I get that. I understand that. But my brain doesn't work that way quite. It doesn't hit me the same way. And I'm kind of jealous, to be honest with you, because it would alleviate a lot of shame that I have. But I use my regrets, right? If I can take away, I use the regrets for the motivation to get up every day and try to be better that day.
Yeah.
I always try to be better today than I was yesterday. And I always think about being better tomorrow than I am today. And a lot of that goes along with using those regrets, remembering the hurt you caused, and doing what you can to A, make up for it, and B, make sure it never happens again.
Yeah.
I may take that to an extreme sometimes. I know, my wife says, you don't have to pay penance anymore, because I do that quite a bit. Like I feel like I have so much to make up for, and I got to keep that in perspective. Normally, there's a fine line there, right? There's a healthy zone of using regret to be better, but not taking it so far as to where it can be detrimental.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense, to not repeat sort of the things before. I'm interested here with what you shared there. How do you work through? So you share like, okay, I got to learn from yesterday to do better today. How do you work through when maybe that equation doesn't always work out?
Yeah.
Does it always work out for you?
No, it doesn't always work.
Because if it does, tell me, man. I need the secret, Dave.
No. So, I mean, you've got to, if you can, it doesn't always work out. Sometimes you have bad days. Sometimes you struggle. Sometimes you fail. But as long as you know that you tried, that's the most important part, right? Hey, it didn't go my way. If it was out of my control or I just failed, that's disappointing. But as long as I know that I tried to make today better than yesterday, that at least gives me hope and motivation for the next day. If I somehow disappoint my daughter because I made a promise to go camping with her and I wasn't able to do it because of work, it's well, okay. Well, how do you remedy that? Okay, well, you try. You say, hey, let's set this date. I'll take you fishing. We'll go camping, and you commit to it, right?
Yeah.
So it's the effort. It's not necessarily the results. The results are great, but the biggest thing is the fight. It's the effort. It's making sure that you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I did my best.
Yeah. I love that, man. Yeah. And I mean, that's the approach I take with it, because I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of days where I come up short with, whatever it is that I want to do. But I think it's, it's trying, man, showing up, trying, and
That's right.
realizing too that things are not always going to go our way. And I think that's a learned skill, man. And in something we learn sort of on this journey too, about how to work through realizing in life what we can control and what things we can't, and I mean, questionable of how many things can we actually control? I mean, and I think our response and our reaction to things are something, and that's like with the kids and, with you being a father too, like it's been, my oldest is 7 now, and, like, I feel like, man, I should know, like, I should know, but, like, sometimes I still don't go about things the way I always would want to,
Yeah.
So it's kind of like learning and getting feedback from my wife or getting feedback from them and, like, asking them, how would you have liked me to go about that differently? But also, like, being humble in the sense of, like, I don't have it all figured out, guys. We're in this together, but asking questions that I think reflect my willingness to grow in different situations. And that's only one, but there's many, right? When things don't go the way I want. I think that's a massive like part of growth. I never, when I was drinking, I never really, I mean, I obviously cared that it was impacting other people, but part of me was so selfish and self-centered, I think, where it was just like, yeah, you deal with that, whatever, right? Like I never really came back to the table. If I had a problem with somebody or I had something, an argument or a disagreement, I rarely ever came back to the table to say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry for the way that that went. How can I do it differently next time? And now I do that like in my life. I'm trying to grow. Like it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable, but yeah, I love that
It's
perspective.
growth. Yeah. I think I can relate with so much with what you said, especially, I mean, we're flawed. We're all flawed. Everybody's flawed. And to deny those flaws I think it sets you back. And then for those who are alcoholics and addicts, there's a different beast that you have to deal with. And addiction amplifies those flaws. And so the knowledge of that, the self-awareness that you need to have to first acknowledge it that's the most important step. And then once you can acknowledge it, then you can take the next steps to alleviate them and to make sure that those flaws, while they're still there, you don't let them impact yourself or the people you love. I'll never have claimed to have this thing beat. I'm not. I'm not recovered. I'm in recovery. Right.
Yeah.
I still feel it every day. I can go through some pretty dark spells, but it doesn't always present itself as thirst for alcohol, like I was mentioning before. It's a physical response. It's an overwhelming notion that something's not right and I have to fix it. And that's the flaw that lives within me. So I took a long time to admit, use the A word, right? Like, no, I didn't necessarily I wasn't necessarily an alcoholic, but I can't drink. And I'm like, I'm setting these weird parameters around myself. I'm like, just embrace it. Just embrace that flaw and use it as motivation, use it as fuel to make the world around you better. Because I think we all get so caught up in everyday life and big, huge problems. If you just do what you can to affect the world around you, I think that creates a better world collectively, right? It's the old analogy of the ripples on the pond, right? You create one ripple and everybody else creates other ripples, and then they all converge together. And if you're able to affect your own world and everybody does that in a positive way, I think that's how we get through this thing together, which is to me the definition of community.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Yeah. Everybody kind of do their part. Everybody do their part to like, and there's one quote too, and I don't know who to give it credit to, but it's like, if you want to change the world, like show up differently in your own home or
Right.
change your own home. Like that's just really what we can do. And I mean, in doing that, you have a massive impact sort of on the world. I was reflecting the other day, for a second or two, my life without sobriety, what does it look like, and I was looking at a picture of my wife and my kids, on this little vacation, and, just thinking about sort of the generations, right? I mean, not only what I see today, but what comes next and next and next and next by me deciding to get sober and staying on this journey and
That's right.
meeting incredible people. And I just felt so empowered by that. Like it was that thing of like the kind of the ripple effect of like how things continued to go. I mean, my life, if I look back at it and I don't decide to get sober and put in the work and the effort, over the years to stay on the journey, I mean, my life doesn't look anything like it does now. And even if I was still around, that would kind of be a part of the thing too. I mean, there was a lot of people, in my early 20s who were counselors, therapists, everybody, it was like, you'll be lucky to make it past 25. I mean, you keep living like this, the wheels are gonna, they already fell off a long time ago, but I don't know if I was down to the board, the skateboard at this point, but everything was coming, it was unraveling fast, and at the time I didn't think much of it. Like, who are they to tell this? But when I look back now and the position I'm in now and what I know now of working with people for 15 years, I would have a pretty good spidey sense of where things are headed for people. I mean, obviously, I don't have a crystal ball and predict the future, but these people back then, they had a pretty good idea. They worked with a lot of people. I wasn't some unique. I think when I was really struggling, I thought I was one of a kind or so much different than everybody else, or they don't understand it. But the truth was, I mean, I had my own unique journey, but my behaviors were right in line with
Yeah.
a lot of people. As a human, we have a set of things. So it's really interesting, man.
Well, that's a great point. And I think you mentioned that you have this spidey sense when you're talking to people. And I think what it is, and people get defensive when you start talking about the drinking. And I think what it is alcoholics and addicts are liars, but the biggest lies are the ones we tell ourselves, right? And when they're in the throes of addiction, you're lying to yourself to justify not changing, to not putting in the work, to not facing the fact that you're hurting yourself and those around you. So to deny that, like I said, if you deny that, then you don't even realize there's a problem to solve. So
Yes, very true. Any closing thoughts for us, Dave? Amazing as always to connect with you. Oh, one more thing, and then closing thoughts. Do people know? Like, do you share with people in your world? Would they know Dave is the guy that doesn't drink?
Yeah, they do now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't go out and shout it from the rooftops because, like I said, my recovery is it's just not my personality to be that outward about it. But if it comes up, I'll say, no, I'm sober now. Depends on who I'm talking to. I may not share that I'm alcoholic, but I would say, I'm sober. I don't drink.
Yeah.
But it's not because I'm ashamed or anything like that. It's just I have a hard time opening up to people like that, which is very ironic since I'm talking right now to you, to one of the most listened to sobriety podcasts out there. But not to get off on a tangent, but I'm doing this because sobriety has brought so many great things to me, and I think the universe, I owe it to people to pay that thing forward. So to be able to talk on this platform, be in the community, the sober motivation community, and at least share my story, and somebody that maybe on their first day or their 20th day or their 1,000th day, they find that they can relate to something, then I'm paying back what life has given me. So yeah, but
Love that, man. I love that, dude. For it being, not what you're regularly doing, and that you jump on here too. And I think it was an email you must have sent me moons ago, was it?
yeah, it was. I just talked about, well, the first time I was on, man, I can't believe when I remember sending that email and I hit the button. I was like, what did I just do? I hope he doesn't respond. So yeah, but now I'm here for a second time, and yeah, it's funny how those things work out. So
Isn't it, man? It's I was the other day. We'll close with this. The other day I was really wondering about the timing of everything. I was kind of fast forwarding, to these main events in my life, right? Meeting my wife and having kids, and when I got sober, all of this stuff, and I'm like, one little thing changes, man. I mean, one little thing changes and we don't end up where we've ended up. I mean, a left turn instead of a right, like literally that small of a thing, 1 second difference, 1 minute more in the shower, things could change, right? I mean, tragedy and accidents and all that are waiting around every corner. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? And that's why when I end up in places and I'm sometimes wondering, how did I end up here? Why am I here? I always hear like this little weird whisper. you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yep, exactly.
Because it's too, like, how can you make sense of it all without just with, like, they say football is a game of inches, right? And how can you make it, life too? And how can you make sense of it all? I spent, I think, so many years questioning where I was in life. Am I where I'm supposed to be? Am I in the job I'm supposed to be? Am I whatever? Am I where they're at, where other people are at? And I think it's brought a lot of peace to my life over the last, maybe 5 years, really embracing this idea and this mindset and philosophy of, like, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And I bring all that up to say, like, the email you sent, like, you're supposed to, and I was supposed to see it, because I'll be honest with you and everybody listening to the show, there's a lot of emails that I don't see just because there's so many. There's some where I'm looking at it here and I might read a little bit of it, but then my kids are like, hey, dad, and I don't look at it, and I didn't switch it back to unread. So it kind of goes away. And if people don't message again, it's nothing personal. I just move on, So I'm like, there's a reason for it, man. And I've enjoyed every time we've been able to connect.
Yeah, no, I can relate with everything you just said there. And if there's one thing that getting sober has taught me, is things happen for a reason. I'm not talking about fate or something, that ethereal. But things do happen for a reason. And the fact that you and I were able to connect, like I said, if it's because I can help somebody else out there, great. But it also helps me to sit here and talk to you about it, or to talk to people in the community about it, or talk to somebody in my life that I love and respect. This as well as anyone, right? Sobriety doesn't solve all your problems. It just empowers you to handle them more effectively. The reasons we drink don't go away, right? But drinking and using takes a match to those reasons, right? It makes you helpless and weak against that fight, or makes you believe that you have no fight in you. So embrace those feelings, the good and bad. Use the regrets and just fight every day, because the fight can be beautiful.
Yeah, love that, man. And then kind of wraps up with that other part you shared too, in your story there, where you get to that acceptance point. I think that's a lot of people's journey. It's just like, this is my life and this is the way it's always going to be. I see it around me all the time, just accepted that this is the way it's going to be. And yeah, I mean, you run out of gas, I guess, at some point with kind of battling back. But thanks, Dave. Great to see you, man.
Thank you. Thanks, Brad.
Well, there it is. Dave G's update. Always great to connect with Dave. Always really great. Thank you, Dave. I know you shared in there too, and we chatted about it a little bit. This is not really your wheelhouse in a sense, sharing publicly, and I mean, so honestly as well, which I always appreciate, about how things are going and how things were. So thank you so much for stepping out of your comfort zone and sharing with us, because I think it's an incredible story and a great update. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Now let's have a listen to Les. Welcome to this clip with my pal Les. Want to give you a heads up, I had to use a lot of editing for this one. I don't know what you had in the background, Les, a fish tank or aquarium of some sort. So bear with the audio a little bit. I think it turned out pretty good, but there's definitely, to get rid of the background, maybe some of the voice too might be a little bit different in some parts of it. But incredible to have Les join on the podcast to share an update. Been sober since 1981. Yeah, let's get right to it. Welcome back, everyone, to another update episode. We got my good pal Les with us today. Les, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Brad. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks for jumping back on here. Give us an update, a quick check-in with how things are. Just thinking, if anybody didn't catch the episode or just needs a quick memory check on it, give us the Cliff Notes version of what things were like for you.
It was fun, and then it became not fun anymore. Well, so the bottom line, I became a blackout drinker, daily blackout drinker. And it just, it was one of those things that when I jumped into alcohol, it fixed a lot of my insecurities. The fact that I found people that I could fit in with, and And because it was something that I had chased for a long, long time. One of the things that I will say that I talked in the past about the fact that the kids in school on my first day of school said, when we introduced ourselves, talked a little bit, and told them that I was born out of out of town. They said I don't belong there because I wasn't born there. And the thought was, I don't fit in, and I wanted to fit in. And I can remember, even now that I think about it, I'm not even sure I fit in my family situation. I kept thinking to myself, God, am I really a member of this family, or did they adopt me? Because it just didn't feel like it was that comfortable.
Yeah.
So, like I say, I did find the alcohol, took the square edges off of that peg, and I was able to start to feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah. No, it was a relatable story too. I mean, even when you shared that, when you got that feedback from your classmates, and it maybe other places in life too, about feeling like you're not fitting in, it was like, man, I relate to that so much because that's what I felt my entire life. And then it was like, I knew I was destined to try to find a solution to this uncomfortable internal whatever it was. And alcohol came along at the right time in my life. If it would have came along maybe at a different time, I don't know. I mean, either way, it checked that box so well. And I heard this song the other day too about the part of the lyrics for it is about, bringing alcohol places and drinking and stuff, created maybe that connection for us that like maybe was not the realest thing in the world, but it felt good at the time. It was kind of, for me early on, it was worth the consequences that I was experiencing because I'd felt like for so long I didn't fit in. So alcohol comes along. Now I feel like I fit in. I'm getting in a little bit of trouble, but I was just like, this is obviously worth it.
Yeah. And like I say, at the end of the deal, the last 2 years of my drinking was by far the worst of it all. And, when I got alcohol, I dove in full bore, and it was, man, I went to the bottom of the bottle, and I was not coming up until I was all gone.
Yeah.
That was my theory,
And yeah. How old were you for those last 2 years?
That was 20, I would be 23, maybe 22. I knew I drank different than other people, and I knew those last 2 years things were not working, but I didn't know what to do. I had no clue that I was going to stop. That was going to be the answer. I did know that I had a lot of problems, and I didn't know what I was going to do. There's something that I have told a few people that I didn't tell in the past. I'm going to open up a little bit about this in respect of approximately 6 months before I quit drinking. We had had discussions about me backing off drinking, quitting drinking, so on and so forth. And I tried and I couldn't. I tried and I couldn't. And the thought was, I can't do this. I'm a failure. And I'm not going to put anybody else into any more misery. So I took a .357 Magnum Ruger pistol, and I loaded it with hollow point bullets, and I pulled the trigger. Put it in my head, pulled the trigger, and it didn't go off.
Wow.
I pulled it again, it didn't go off. I pulled it a third time, it didn't go off. I set the damn thing down on the table, And I said to myself, that's what kind of a failure I am. I can't even kill myself.
Wow.
So now I'm going to have to drink myself to death.
So was that your next? So after that happened, which I mean, wow. And then after that happened, that was sort of your goal for those next 6 months. And you mentioned there too, like we were discussing, who else was a part of the discussion with how things were?
My wife, primarily, my parents and my brother. Me and my brother were the only two that were in our family, our immediate family, with my mom and dad.
So at that point, everybody was aware of the downhill spiral of drinking. And you've been sober now since July 30th, 1981. Curious for you. I'm curious over on my end of things. You've been a part of this for a long time. I mean, longer than I've been alive, Les. So great job with that. Do you think people who don't have a problem with alcohol question whether or not they have a problem with alcohol or not?
Not whatsoever. I doubt if anybody that is not having a problem with it would ever decide to go today, look on Google and say, do I have a problem with alcohol? Or am I an alcoholic? What is it? Whatever it is. If you do that, chances are you will have a problem with alcohol, is my feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's a lot to look at there under the hood because, I've always wondered that to where we can go back and forth maybe at times, when we're going through that journey of trying to quit, like, some people will, maybe they're not to the end of things, right? Things are not terribly bad for them yet. And they think, oh, I'm just overreacting or this or that. But I can't think of a story off the top of my head where I met somebody who realized that alcohol was not helping their life in any way, shape, or form, and were able to drink again in a way that it was like a quote unquote normie. What have you learned over all of these years, Les, about all of this?
Thing that I've learned the most about it is the fact that believe that life was never going to be fun anymore was nothing more than a myth. And I found out that there's nothing that I can't do today that I did before, except for not drink alcohol. I just don't drink alcohol. But I can do all those things and have a more clear mind, and I can remember things so much better than I ever did. So, yeah, it is the most wonderful thing that has happened in my life today.
Yeah, and that's something I think that, I mean, a lot of us come up against that wall or that barrier or that speed bump about how am I going to enjoy life and how am I going to have fun? And like alcohol has just kind of convinced us, I think, in one way or another that we have to have it. Somebody in the group that used to join us would always say that it felt like alcohol was the gatekeeper to joy or to fun. And it just wasn't true. Like you had to go through alcohol first and had to be at all the events. And like, it is so true what you say there is like life goes on. What I realized, I thought I was having a ton of fun. And like, don't get me wrong. I don't want to put it out there that like some times weren't fun. Like, of course, there were good times at the beginning, whatever. It was a little bit fun. We had a good time. But there were, when I look back at it, I think like I really wasn't having a whole heck of a lot of fun a lot of the times when I thought I was having fun when it came to drinking. I hated it towards the end the most because I knew when I got together with my buddies, once I started drinking, I couldn't stop. And they would just carry it like they would. The football game was over. Everybody's like, okay, see you later. Have a good night. And I was just like, that's when it would just start where I couldn't stop. And I knew that from the beginning. And then it was going to be another day of just the same old madness.
Yeah, I in the beginning, I got to say I was able to stop, but it was usually a case of, in the back of my mind, I always wanted more. You know, I never got enough, shall we say.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I could do that, but there came that point where I crossed that magic line
Yeah.
that people talk about.
Yeah.
And I got to say, it didn't take me very long. I was drinking underage from my around 16 to when I was able to start going to the bars, they had lowered the drinking age to 18. So I was able to start going to the bars, 18 years old, and it became a case of I could go to a bar, I could have a couple of drinks, and I'd leave and go home. But again, I wanted more. I knew I wanted more.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, I can relate to that all too well, man. At first, we're able to kind of put the brakes on it. We're like, okay, I have to work tomorrow, or can't have too much. I got to drive. I mean, like I was able to do that too for some time, but then all that went out the window. And I was just like, once I got going, it was just like a bull in a china shop. And it wouldn't be reckless. Like it wouldn't be like I think what a lot of people see on TV, like you build tolerance. So at first, where 3 beers or 4 beers, I might get a little bit wobbly. Well, towards the end, I mean, I was having a dozen, 15, and I would be walking a straighter line than maybe some people that had 2, So it wasn't like anybody knew, and then the sneakiness came into it, right? So I'd go to the fridge and everybody thought I was just having 1 beer, but I would just slam 1 beer really quick and then walk back in the, the house or the room or whatever it was, with the 1. And then maybe I'd even have 2 when people weren't looking, and then come back with 1. And because people are always like, Brad, because then it would, after a while, the scales would tip, and then it would kind of catch up with you. You drink so fast, or I did anyway, drink so fast, it would catch up with me. And like 2 hours, 3 hours later, and I don't know what happened with you. You didn't have that much. And I'm like, no, you're right. I didn't have that much. I don't know what happened. And I would just come up with, maybe I didn't eat anything today. Just BS all the time. So that was kind of your thing, right? Going to the bars throughout, the sobriety too. And you share about that, that uncomfortable feeling too of not fitting in and not belonging and all that stuff, right? That's heavy on us. How have you come to terms or worked through that over the years? And have you found a place in your life where you feel that sense of belonging?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The alcohol got me that feeling, I belong with the bars and stuff like that. And then it got to a point where I knew there were some problems going on. And even though I, in my mind, thought I could drive better when I was drunk, in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, man, one of these nights I'm going to get pulled over by the wrong cop, and he's going to throw me in jail for DUI. So I decided to hell with this. Now, when I got off work, I would run straight to the liquor store, grab a nice full booze, and head home and do all my drinking there. It had gotten to that point where I was that nervous about being out on the road because I just knew something bad was going to happen, So then it got to that point again where after I went to AA to get my deal. And because of my drinking, I heard it put one time this way, and it fits. Because of my drinking, I became the black sheep of the family. I went to AA and found the rest of the herd, because every one of them was the black sheep of their family. And the thing that impressed me the most was they thought like I thought. They felt like I felt. They did similar things. Some of them went a hell of a lot further than I did. But the bottom line was I finally found a connection with people that I actually could fit in with. And through that, developed a lot of very close friendships.
Yeah.
And we talk about doing the work. And for me, again, I have to say, it's AA. So it's a case of my doing the work was working the 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
And it worked for me. It works for me.
Yeah.
I stayed sober a long time with the basics of Alcoholics Anonymous. But there's a portion in our book that talks about we haven't got all the answers. AA doesn't have all the answers. And so I got a little open-minded about things and started looking around a lot and finding so many other avenues that people use other than Alcoholics Anonymous to get and maintain their sobriety. And it's cool. As far as I'm concerned, if that is keeping you sober, whatever it is that's keeping you sober, you keep doing that.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, try something else. Give something else a try. Don't get so put the blinders on to thinking that this is the only way I can get sober.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other options out there. And again, I tout this community, Sober Motivation Community, for doing exactly that. This brought together so many aspects of people. Every meeting I go in, there's other people there that have found different ways of getting sober.
Yeah.
And that in itself, I have said this too, that finding your community, originally it was Sober Buddy, but when you took it over to Sober Motivation, this community gave me a shot in the arm. It gave me a revitalization of my sobriety to where I'm like, man, from now on, it's a case of I'm going to shout it out from the mountaintop that you can stay sober. You don't have to drink.
Yeah.
I am very active on Instagram with that, throwing that out there, along with other aspects that are going on. I mean, your mental health, all kinds of things. The mental health has a lot to do with our alcoholism also. So we have to remind ourselves that just taking the drink away doesn't fix everything.
Yeah, no, so much truth to that. And you're right, the community is a melting pot of different, different things, right? And I think it's so great to see, man. I mean, when I used to work in a rehab and all that stuff, like you only really see one way, and I think if you go to fellowship meetings or you go to church or whatever it is, I mean, teach their own. There's nothing wrong with whatever path somebody takes, but that's all you see. So if that's all you see, that's all you know, that's kind of it. And I think when we explore different avenues of so many different things people are getting connected with these days, and, so many backgrounds, right, of people going to therapy and all these different kinds of therapy and people going to outpatient programs and inpatient programs, or people plugging into fellowship meetings, all of this stuff, right? I look at it as like spokes on a tire. I believe the more things that we are connected to, the better our odds are at making this be a thing of sobriety, be a thing of our life, other than maybe just one avenue and things don't work out. And then you're just like, okay, this is never going to work out because I tried that and it doesn't work. Well, do like anything else we would do in life. Like, oh, I didn't get that one job. You don't just never get a job again in your life. You would go and put out another resume and try here and try there. But I also think from my own story, when things didn't quote unquote work out, I kind of used that as an excuse to keep the wheels going on the drinking. Cause I would say to, my loved ones or my counselor or therapist or whoever it was, I'd say, I already tried that. It doesn't work. And then, it's like, I didn't really try stuff though. I showed up and I I kept the seat warm, for different things I did, but I didn't really apply myself. I didn't really get out of my comfort zone. I didn't really get vulnerable. I wasn't really honest with people. And I didn't reap any of the benefits because I wasn't doing those things. The benefits come after we open up and share and just get honest where things are. And it's always been great having you a part of the community. It has been incredible to connect with you on this journey. Thinking about somebody less, because you've been sober since 81, been to a ton of meetings. There was something you said in one of the meetings recently, man, and I'm not even going to try it because I can't remember it word for word, but it was something about why you go to so many meetings still. Do you remember what that was? As I loved it.
Yeah. I figure as long as I have been sober, I probably only need one meeting a month. Problem is I don't know what meeting that's going to be. So that's why I attend a whole bunch of meetings.
Yeah, I love that. And that just really hit home for me too about, why it's so important to keep that maintenance thing going, right? When it comes to this journey, maintenance, and that's going to look different for everybody. And as time goes but having some element of support, accountability, and be around like-minded people that understand what it's like. Because sometimes talking to people that haven't been through this, we hear it all the time, right? They don't get it. And it's not like it's their fault or it's anything like that. It's just that they just haven't been through it. They just don't understand how difficult it may be at times and sort of all of the layers to it and everything. So it's great to be plugged in with other people. Thinking about that too, Les, somebody who's, I hear it all the time, man. I hear it all the time from podcast listeners and people. It's like, I just can't get it, man. I get a couple days. I'm back at it again. I just can't seem to get past that. I just can't seem to make it stick. What are your thoughts on something like that?
Yeah, I know that early in my sobriety, they talked about doing whatever it takes. And there were days when I would sit on my hand so I would not take that drink or I wouldn't get up to go to the damn liquor store. And I would sit on my hands and I'd wait until it was time to go to a meeting. And I just have to sit through those feelings and those emotions and deal with them and keep telling myself, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And maybe I have to do that 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden the feeling was gone. I'd be okay for a while. Once I get through that feeling, then it gave me a little bit of encouragement of, man, I just got through this intense feeling. Maybe I can get through this thing, and it just keeps, every time you go through it and you go all the way through it and you don't take that drink, you get a little more power, shall we say.
Yeah. Yeah, you get a little bit more confidence too. Your ability to do it. I think that's a big part of what it comes down to. There's layers to it, obviously, but it's new. Like it's something new for us, just like anything else. Like the first time we tried to ride a bike. I remember recently I was teaching my 7-year-old how to ride a bike without training wheels. And she was just like, I'm never going to get it. And like literally an hour later, she's cruising around without training wheels. But initially she was so frustrated and so upset, like in tears, that she would never figure this out. And an hour later, there we were, right? But it's anything that's new is just going to feel overwhelming, but it's breaking it down into very manageable, time spans, right? If it's an hour, if it's 2 hours, and if it's one day, we hear that a lot. in the space of sobriety too is like one day at a time, like we don't have to have the next wedding or the next summer vacation or everything down the road figured out. It's like, let's just stay focused on what's right in front of us for right now.
And that bicycle deal reminds me of this, in respect of, you fall down 9 times, you get back up 10. You get back up, you get back up, you get back on there, you try again. No matter how many damn times it takes, you just keep trying. Eventually it sticks. Something happens, Yeah. I've said to myself, in the past about my drinking too, is that it took me every drink it took for me to be bait into a state of reasonableness where I could understand and realize that I had to have help. And the bottom line was, man, all this time it took me, all I had to do was, what I say, surrender or accept, shall we say, the fact that everything else in my life that I was able to do out of sheer willpower never worked with this one substance. I couldn't understand that I could not understand the addiction.
Yeah.
And it'll get to you, and it's that devil on this thing and the angel over here, and they're fighting with each other, which one is going to win. And you gotta want this at least as much as you wanted to get drink.
Yeah. Yeah, there has to be that willingness for sure, obviously, to get to that point of acceptance too. I mean, for me at the end too, it was a simple acceptance of, I feel like before I quit drinking, I had tried so hard to quit drinking, which is so interesting. And the last time I drank, I didn't try that hard. Like I wasn't trying that hard in the sense of willpower. I was leaning into support and just kind of throwing my hands up like, boys, I've tried it all. Like I have tried to switch. I have tried different days. I've tried this. I've tried that. I mean, I had tried everything I could possibly think of to figure things out on my own, and just always ended up at the same place I promised myself I never would end up again.
Right.
But
Right.
at the end, it was that acceptance of, look, this is how it was drinking for me. Every time wasn't a disaster. Often it was. I could go a week and have no problems. I could probably go a month and have no problems and no risky behavior. But there were times where I could have slid a sheet of paper between living and dying. And that was not every day. But I knew, I came to accept that at the end. I may not get there for another 6 months, but there's a guarantee I will get there again with the poor decisions. That's what was happening in my life, is that I was making poor and taking riskier and riskier decisions when I was drinking. And that was really becoming the scary part, compounded with everything else that we know goes on, right? The anxiety, the problems with, heart racing and feeling like I'm having a heart attack or something, what people talk about, or panic attacks or anxiety and all of that other stuff as well, sweating all night, waking up at 3 a.m, all of that other madness. But that was what was really scary to me, is I never really knew when I was going to black out or when I was going to push it too far, or, how things were going to look. And I just kind of, towards the end, I think I got tired of just sort of living like that. I just was tired of like not being in control. And that's what was happening when I was drinking. I was losing control of my choices and just making really so far out of character choices in life. anything less to wrap us up here, man? And I really appreciate you hanging out and sharing a quick update with us.
But I do have a couple of things that come to mind, and that is that there's a statement that says, good decisions come from experience, and experience comes from poor decisions. So in other words, you're going to make mistakes. Hopefully you'll learn from those mistakes, right? The other thing was, we talked that earlier on, you mentioned a word that kind of bothers me to a degree, and that is maintenance. The way I look at this thing is, if I am maintaining, I am not moving. And if I'm not moving, I'm not progressing. And it's getting closer to me going back the other way. I want to make a little bit of progress every day. So I don't look at it as maintaining. I look at it as learning something every day. And the bottom line is, it may be some little itty bitty thing that I've noticed in a day but even after all this time, I'm still looking for those things. So never stop going forward. Yeah. Keep putting that one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, good point there too. Looking for, we hear like a 1% better a lot. Looking for areas to improve, whether it's I'm with you on that too. Like looking at, reacting to different situations. How could I go about things differently, right? With all these kids running around crazy all the time. Come on, maybe I can make some improvement in that area. Yeah, I love that, Les. And it's good to be moving forward and making progress too. And I just really appreciate everything you give back to the community, not only sober motivation, but in your own community and in all the areas of, things you're a part of, man. So really appreciate it. Anything else for, you mentioned earlier too, there was one other thing that stood out to me that you had, mentioned earlier. And now I've forgotten it magically here, Les. And I'm not going to be able to remember it. It's long gone. But yeah, thanks, Les.
Yeah, you'll probably remember it in about 10 minutes.
I know.
I mean, that's the way I am. So
that's the way
I think. Man, listen, buddy, if I'm hosting a meeting, I've got a hunk of paper sitting beside me. And if my camera goes off, I'm writing something down. Okay? I am writing something down on a piece of paper because something triggered a thought. And my mind ain't near as sharp as it used to be. I can't remember everything. It's funny. I can remember my phone number when I was a kid, but there are times I can walk into a room and think, why the hell am I in here? What did I walk in here for? And then have to walk back out because I can't figure it out. I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
It happens, Les. It happens, man. But yeah, thanks again, man, and keep things rocking.
Thank you, Brad, again. I appreciate you asking me to do this.
Yeah. Well, there it is. Another incredible update episode. Thank you again, Les. I want to share a quick story really quick with Les. Les always wanted to take one of those NASCARs for a couple trips around the track. Gabe from the community got wind of this and was like, hey, why don't we see if we could make this happen for Les? So we collected some donations. A lot of people contributed to it, and we got Les a little package so he could take that NASCAR around the track. And sounds like he had a lot of fun. That's what community is all about, though. Community connection. It's beautiful. And it really makes this journey a lot easier than it is without it. So thank you guys, as always, for listening to the podcast. Some full stories coming up soon, and I'll see you on the next one.